Amalia stood at the edge of the driveway, holding a crumpled piece of paper in her hand. The message had arrived that morning, in a plain white envelope with no return address. It said only this: "If you want to understand why they left, come to the house at the end of Maple Ridge Road. Come before sunset." She read it 3 times before showing it to Raphael, who was sitting on the porch with his coffee, going cold in his hands. Raphael looked at the note and then at her. His face was tired. They had not heard from their son or daughter in almost 2 years. Not a phone call, not a birthday card. Just silence that grew heavier with each passing month. At first they made excuses. The kids were busy. Life gets complicated. But the silence became something else. It became a wall they could not climb over or see through. Amalia had stopped setting extra plates at the table. Raphael had stopped checking his phone every few minutes. They had learned to live with the emptiness, but it never stopped hurting. "Do you think it's real?" Amalia asked. Raphael folded the paper and put it in his shirt pocket. "I don't know, but we should go." They drove in silence through the back roads until they reached Maple Ridge. The road was narrow and lined with trees that bent inward like they were trying to touch each other. At the very end, almost hidden by overgrown bushes, was a small house. It looked old but not abandoned. The windows were clean. The door was painted a soft blue. Amalia felt her stomach tighten as they stepped out of the car. Raphael walked ahead and knocked on the door. It swung open on its own. Inside, the house was warm and smelled faintly of lavender. There were no cobwebs or dust. It felt like someone had just been there. Amalia hesitated at the doorway, but Raphael took her hand, and they stepped inside together. The first room was simple. A wooden table sat in the center, with a single object on top of it, a journal. Raphael picked it up and opened it slowly. The pages were filled with handwriting they both recognized. It was their own, but they had never written in this journal. The entries were moments from their life. The time Amalia stayed up all night with their daughter when she had a fever. The time Raphael drove 3 hours in a snowstorm to pick up their son from college when his car broke down. Small moments, quiet moments, moments they had almost forgotten. Amalia sat down at the table and read through the pages with trembling hands. She did not understand how this journal existed or who had written it, but every word was true. Every memory was real. She looked up at Raphael and saw tears in his eyes. "What is this place?" she whispered. Raphael did not answer. He was staring at a doorway on the other side of the room. Beyond was another room, and in that room were more objects. A box of photographs, a stack of letters tied with string, a child's drawing taped to the wall. They walked into the room together, and Amalia felt her chest grow tight, not with fear, but with something else, something she could not name yet. Raphael untied the string around the letters and opened the first one. It was from their daughter. The handwriting was shaky and uneven, like she had written it in a hurry or through tears. The letter began with an apology. She wrote about how she felt like she could never be enough, how every time she visited, she saw disappointment in their eyes, how she was afraid they were ashamed of the choices she had made. She wrote that she stayed away because she thought it would hurt less for everyone. She was wrong, but she did not know how to come back. Amalia covered her mouth with her hand. She remembered the visits. She remembered the tension. But she had never known her daughter felt that way. She had thought her daughter was pulling away because she no longer cared. She had been so wrong. Raphael opened another letter. This one was from their son. He wrote about his own fears. He wrote about feeling like he had failed them. He had lost his job 2 years ago and was too ashamed to tell them. He thought they would judge him. He thought they would be disappointed. So he stopped calling. He stopped visiting. He told himself it was easier this way. But it was not. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. Amalia sat on the floor and read through every letter. There were dozens of them. Letters their children had written but never sent. Letters full of love and guilt and fear. Letters that explained everything. The silence had not been about anger or coldness. It had been about fear. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of letting them down. Fear of being rejected. Raphael knelt beside her and took her hand. His face was wet with tears. "We never knew," he said. "We never told them it was okay to be afraid. We never told them we loved them no matter what." Amalia nodded. She felt the weight of all the years pressing down on her. But she also felt something else. She felt understanding. She felt forgiveness. Not just for her children, but for herself. She had been so focused on her own pain that she had not seen theirs. They stood up and walked into the next room. This room was different. There were no objects, only a mirror on the wall. Amalia looked into it and saw herself. But she also saw something written on the glass in faint letters. It said, "You can choose kindness. You can choose to begin again." Raphael read the words aloud and then turned to her. "What do we do?" Amalia thought about all the nights she had spent angry, all the times she had rehearsed what she would say if her children ever came back, all the blame she had held on to like a shield. But standing in this strange house, surrounded by the truth, she realized that anger would not heal anything. It would only keep the wall standing. Kindness was the only way forward. Forgiveness was the only door that would open. "We call them," she said. "We tell them the truth. We tell them we love them and that we're sorry too." They left the house and walked back to the car. The sun was setting, and the sky was streaked with orange and pink. Amalia felt lighter than she had in years. Raphael drove them home in silence, but it was not the heavy silence they had grown used to. It was a different kind, a hopeful kind. That night, Amalia sat at the kitchen table with her phone in her hand. She stared at her daughter's name for a long time before pressing the call button. The phone rang 3 times before her daughter answered. Her voice was cautious and surprised. "Mom." Amalia took a deep breath. "I love you," she said. "I need you to know that. I love you no matter what. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you weren't enough. You are enough. You have always been enough." There was silence on the other end. Then her daughter began to cry. "I'm sorry too," she said. "I'm so sorry." They talked for over an hour. Amalia told her about the house and the letters. Her daughter listened and cried and laughed and said she'd been so scared for so long. But she wanted to come home. She wanted to try again. Raphael called their son the next morning. The conversation was harder at first. Their son was defensive and unsure. But Raphael did not push. He did not demand explanations. He just said, "I'm proud of you. I always have been. And I miss you." His son's voice cracked when he answered, "I miss you too, Dad." Over the next few weeks, they talked more. Slowly, carefully, they began to rebuild what had been broken. Their daughter visited on a Saturday afternoon and brought flowers. She sat at the kitchen table and told them about her life. Amalia listened without judgment. She asked questions. She smiled. She reached across the table and held her daughter's hand. Their son came a week later. He looked thinner and more tired than Amalia remembered. But when he hugged Raphael, he did not let go for a long time. They sat on the porch together and talked about the years they had lost. Raphael told him about the house and the letters. His son cried and said he'd been so ashamed. Raphael told him that shame was a heavy thing to carry alone. He said they should have carried it together. Amalia did not know who had left the note or why the house existed. She did not know if it was real or something else. But it did not matter. What mattered was that it had shown them the truth. It had given them the chance to choose kindness over anger. It had given them the courage to begin again. Months later, Amalia and Raphael sat on their porch together. Their daughter was coming for dinner that night. Their son had called earlier to say he found a new job and wanted to tell them about it. The silence was gone. The wall was gone. In its place was something fragile but growing, something that looked a lot like hope. Raphael reached over and took Amalia's hand. "We're lucky," he said. Amalia nodded. She thought about the house in the woods and the letters that had never been sent. She thought about all the words that had been left unspoken for so long. And she thought about how love, even when it gets lost, can always find its way back if you let it.